On today's installment, we're not going to be purely breaking down the Onager class Star Destroyer, but analyzing its practical use on the battlefield. Given the recent release of the Starships and Speeders Encyclopedia, we finally have some hard stats on this class. So without further ado, first and foremost, the Onager class is centered around its two main weapons. Depending on the individual vessel, it could be equipped with either the super heavy composite beam turbo lasers or orbital bombardment particle cannons. While they both had extremely long ranges, the particle cannons had yet greater range, able to strike planets from a safe distance. The turbo lasers seem to be more of a multi-purpose weapon, being able to target both ships and stationary positions, but at the cost of reduced range. Either way, both weapons pull their power directly from the oversized reactor for nigh unstoppable firepower, well beyond what normal ships can respond to. Due to physical restrictions, namely being spinally integrated within the hull, the main weapons can only fire directly in front of the vessel with very little, if any, deviation. This meant that the vessel was designed around frontal combat, which is probably why its shield deflectors are concentrated towards the bow. For more conventional firepower, it had 6 twin heavy turbo laser batteries and 24 heavy turbo laser batteries, which were enough to deter most smaller capital ships. It was also armed with 20 secondary point defense laser cannons, largely meant to supplement its fighter complement. Given their limited arsenal and unique shield layout, meant that the class was ill-suited for heavy ship-to-ship combat with anything larger than, say, a corvette, forcing it to rely on a considerable support fleet for protection. This largely meant that an Onager shouldn't arrive onto a battlefield until space superiority has been achieved. However, if it was one of the rarer super heavy turbo laser variants, it's more likely to have been run in that range to function as anti-ship artillery against an otherwise unassailable target, vaguely similar to the Conqueror type ISD from Legends, but as a proper ship class than a one-of-a-kind experimental vessel. Though somewhat vulnerable on its own, its rather noticeable hammerhead design contains a pair of large hangars at the elongated bow. It carries a total of 36 ties, usually fighters or interceptors, and up to 6 Lambda shuttles to carry embarked troops down to the surface. This also means that a lone Onager would be completely unheard of, with a constant guard of its escort fleet. What this force would be has been shown in official art, with what appears to be 1 to 2 Victory-class Star Destroyers escorting a single Onager. This would provide additional fighter support along with dedicated frontline combat vessels to fight it out with other capital ships, sparing the Onager from its inevitable smackdown. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the Onager, besides its recently revealed weapons and fighter specs, is its length. It can be pretty safely assumed to be larger than the Architens, as there's no way it could support the weapons and power systems required at that size, and would have to be smaller than 2 kilometers, as being sufficiently bigger than an ISD would inhibit its practicality and mass producibility. Using the physical models from the Armada trading card game for scaling, we see that it's just barely larger than the 1129 meter Interdictor class, but a good bit shorter than the 1600 meter Imperial class. While these scales clearly aren't 100% perfect, I'd say it's fairly safe to say the Onager is very roughly between 1200 and 1300 meters in length. But of course this part is pure speculation, so take it with a grain of salt. So, how would you actually use this vessel? When equipped with the orbital bombardment particle cannons, you use it for exactly that, dealing huge amounts of damage at a planetary target. This, of course, included the prerequisite that you've engaged and won against local enemy space forces, keep it well escorted and using fighter screens while attacking a planet. Should it have the super heavy turbo lasers, your options open up slightly. While it's still very dangerous to bring into an active battle, keeping it far in the rear and away from enemy capital ships will greatly prolong its survival. Fleet admirals in command of the engagement could coordinate the Onager with other elements of the fleet to choose particularly dangerous targets or of otherwise strategic importance, and essentially snipe them at range. Even with a powerful fleet defending it, after only a handful of shots, the Onager would undoubtedly become the focus of enemy forces. Unless the defenders can keep both enemy fighters and capital ships at bay, the Onager would have to quickly retreat before being destroyed. Should the ship be recognized from previous engagements, it would be premiered before even firing the first shot, thus keeping its existence questionable would allow it to be that much more effective when it was used. Overall, in the right hands, it can pull off long-range artillery attacks against unwitting targets. And a very special thanks to Matt Donnie for his images of the Onager class Star Destroyer. Be sure to check out more of his awesome sci-fi artwork at dnart.com, link here or in the description below. And now, not only do you know about the Onager class, but also how to properly use it in battle. If you have other ideas or suggestions for ships versus battles, whatnot, please comment below. A huge thanks to our Patreon supporters. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you everybody else for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe for more content, and remember, this was your first pass at the Onager class Star Destroyer.